You are listening to Kickspot.
Awesome. And we're back to part 2 of the Donut King episode with Alice Gu and Chris Ngoy. I don't really know how to pronounce your last name still, to be honest.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's like Ngoy, Noi, no, Ngoy. It's a lot. But no, we're super excited. We just talked about and discussed the history and the background of Alice's inspiration behind the film and, what made her do it. And now we're gonna talk a little bit more about like what the film really is and, ask her questions like, how she kind of put things together and things of that nature. So one of my first question is, in the book, there's a love story between Grandpa Ted and Grandma Christie.
Grandpa Ted.
not this guy. But I want to know like how you felt, especially reading the book and especially talking and spending time with him, like how you felt about that and how, I thought that was super romantic, like just the beginning part and how he helped her get here and stuff like that. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it was, well, of course you read it and it's like Romeo and Juliet, right? It's
Right.
very, very dramatic. And for people who don't know, and I don't want to give too much away, there's all kinds of like forbidden love and suicide or attempted suicides and all, it's very, very dramatic. And you're not sure how much is for dramatic effect. That's poetic license, taken into writing the story. And, when I first met Ted also, we're like, the guard was kind of still up a little bit. Like, it takes a little while for the guard to come down. And we're like, maybe it was an exaggeration, or maybe this part's not true, or, you don't know. And, at the end, finally, I had him sit in a chair for 10 hours and talk to me and tell me everything. I'm like, I'm going to break down every guard and every bit, you're going to talk to me. And he said, then we got to that story, and he said, look, and he lifted up his shirt. He had 3 puncture wounds from when he tried to kill himself, when he stabbed himself 3 times, when he was told that he could not be with Christy Sigantini at the time. And we were like, damn, not only was it true, like he's got the wounds.
I've seen it.
He's got the wounds to prove it. Yeah. It's pretty. That kind of speaks volumes about Ted. He's all in on everything. He doesn't go halfway.
So what other items captivated you on making this film?
God, just about this, like before I knew him, or
Before and after you knew him, like as you got to know the family as well.
So from the book, it was almost like healing for me. As you said, you guys come from immigrant families too, so it's a greater understanding of what our parents went through. So that was very therapeutic and healing for me personally. His story about helping people, that was incredible. The politics were incredible, and about how we tend to think now, like, Republicans are like, hey, this is all America, and like, refugees aren't welcome. And in the 70s, it was the Democrats who were like, refugees go home, and then Republicans were like, refugees come here.
Yeah.
So that was super interesting and enlightening. And back to Many Shades of Grey, it's just not black and white. There's so many shades of gray in everything. I'll tell you a funny story. In the book, about the Cambodian dance troupe.
That was in the book.
That was in the book, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, some of the challenges were for just finding stuff and people who were like willing to talk. So, even getting the mom to talk for a while was like pretty hard. Getting the siblings, Chet and Savvy, to talk. Chris knows how hard that was because I worked him, and I was like, Chris, you gotta work your siblings. You gotta work your siblings. And he was
I'm the sucker.
I'm like, how's it going? I'm like,
You're the sales guy.
Have you broken them down? I'm like, you gotta work your siblings. So there's just a lot of old school Asian people, first of all, are not that communicative in the first place. So you're just trying to find like, something like, what about this dance troupe? I'm like, what was the name of the dance troupe? You guys went to DC, like who else was involved? Oh, I think maybe Christy's sister, but so she's like, call my sister. I called the sister, and she's like, yeah, I can't remember. and like, how much of this is true? And so the second time we were in Cambodia, and this was already like, there was, the dance troupe had made the cut, but we didn't have like stuff to beef up the story. And I said, Ted, I just have to ask you, this is the day before we left, that dance troupe that you talk about, that you hosted 52 kids, like, can you tell me anything, like the name, where they performed? Can you tell me anything about that dance troupe? Nobody has anything. And he says, oh, hey, right here. The guy that I sat next to dinner the whole night, he's like, he was a kid in that dance troupe. And you're like, what?
On my last day?
You have to be kidding me. And he's like, oh yeah, come in. He's like, oh yeah, I was in that dance troupe. I was a kid at the time. And just when you think like a story is like not true,
It's true.
not only is it true, it's better than you ever imagined it. There's stuff that Ted did, and he's like, oh, so he took us in. We were in the house. He took us to DC. We met the president. I remember a helicopter landed, and then President Bush Sr. like lifted off in that helicopter, and we were like, whoa, this is incredible. He's like, then we went to Broadway, and he took us to New York, and Ted's like, I did? And he's like, yeah, you took us all to New York, and we all saw Broadway shows. And Ted's like, I don't even remember. So, I mean, imagine footing the bill for 52 kids to go to DC, footing the bill for 52 kids to go to New York, see a Broadway show. And this kid, then they finally raised enough money to be sent back to Cambodia. So they went home to Cambodia, and then it was like the 90s or something when Facebook was invented. This kid never forgot. And he said, as soon as Facebook was invented, he's like, I have to find Ted, the guy who like made such a big difference in my life. And he found him, and they connected on Facebook. That was the first person he wanted to find on Facebook.
Well, I can tell you this story is real because all 52 of them were in our house.
Really?
Yeah, in Mission Viejo.
Yeah.
The
big
mansion.
house. Yeah. And it's crazy.
The pool.
Crazy.
All 52?
Yeah. Yes. They're
Can you
all
even fit
downstairs.
52 people?
Oh yeah. It was a big house. Yeah.
I saw it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I was like, how come you guys are not?
But it was crazy. So if you know the whole story or not, I guess they ran out of money. Back then I was a kid, so whatever, And I guess we took them in, and you're saying that my dad paid. I'm like, how did he pay? It was on the downside of his.
I'm not sure. Well, he
Career at that point.
arranged for them to. So the original promoter, who brought the kids here,
Yeah.
to be like, hey, you're gonna do this tour, and it never materialized. So these kids were now stuck, and that guy was out of money, and all these kids were stuck here and had no way of going home. So Ted did some other like fundraising efforts, and did put on some other shows. We actually found a ticket stub that the kids did, and raised money. He just spread the word. He's like, you guys have to come and support and buy tickets for the show, because that's how the kids are going to get home.
You know, as you're reading the book, sometimes people say like the book is better than the movie or vice versa. How did you convey all of that plus more? Because I'm sure like the book only talked about a certain thing. You're like a private investigator as well too. So how did you display that within the documentary?
The book is so good. Again, it was like the most invaluable source material that you could go off of. But then there's a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily get into a book. Like really personal, nuanced moments that that you may not want to put out there right away. Yeah. And after gaining some trust, then Ted's like, all right, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what happened. But yeah, it was this was a hard one in editorial, because we knew right away, we're like, how are we going to edit this? And what is the story we're going to tell? There are so many stories. We could just do a biopic on Ted himself. His life is super fascinating. Are we going to tell an American Dream story? Are we going to tell a David and Goliath story? And that's, they beat out Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts, and it's billions of dollars.
It's insane. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, bro. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And Dunkin', which ruled the East Coast.
Bro, they were the kings of the West Coast.
What?
The kings of the West Coast.
Yeah. So Dunkin' came, and they're like, we're going to invest millions of dollars, and we're going to open in the golden prime land of California. And these little mom and pop Cambodian stores, they couldn't compete.
Oh.
They couldn't
That's why
compete,
they
and they
left.
left. This
They
was the
left.
80s, and they left.
Why do you think Dunkin' Donuts are not here? Oh,
I mean, they're back.
recently,
Now
back
they're here
there.
again.
Only the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, dude,
5
that's the
years.
reason why.
2012.
Mhm.
That was,
Well,
that
2012,
was
yeah.
the first
Yeah,
time.
there's an article on why
Yep.
Duncan failed and now they're back.
Yep.
So,
Because of your dad, single-handedly.
The dad
Yeah, isn't that insane?
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
no, that's crazy.
Yeah.
and the network of Cambodians.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And like and the bond was so strong. Like there was a loyalty to Grandpa Ted. And like that's like what I learned also.
Well, this was super touching. Is imagine Orange County in the 70s. It was pretty white, you know, like not a lot of people have seen Asian people. And when Ted first, he was the manager of the Winchells, his English was terrible, right? It was very, very heavily accented. And people were making fun of his accent. It was terrible. Like they would like literally ching chong him.
Yeah.
And they would make fun of him. And he went to his sponsor. He was like totally dismayed. He's like, I don't know what to do. And his sponsor's like, oh, you know, people, they all have their kind of prejudices, right? So he's like, why don't stick Christy in the front? Everybody loves her because his mom's hot, right? She's like beautiful. And they're like, stick Christy in the front. He's like, keep Ted in the back. That's what he did.
What?
So then Ted is in the back, and then Christy's out in the front making friends in the community.
I believe it.
And he said, and Ted said, you know, little by little, you know, then we had a little bit more money. We can donate $5 to like little Billy's Little League baseball game. And then he started to make bridges, and then he started to like make friends in the community. During the filming of this, I don't know if you remember, this was a couple years ago, there was a donut shop in Seal Beach that the owner's wife had cancer.
No.
And so she was in the hospital.
I remember reading
And this actually made
Okay.
international news
Yeah.
because, and the customers are like, why aren't you with your wife? And he says, because I have to make donuts. I have to make donuts. And if I don't have donuts, you guys don't have donuts to eat. I got to make business. So this community in Seal Beach, which is super white, they're like, we can't have this. Look, if we just buy him out of donuts every morning by like 9 or 10 a.m., he doesn't have any more donuts. He's going to have to go to the hospital. So they did that every day. The community bought out all the donuts so he could be with his wife. So I thought it was so amazing that just like 2 decades earlier, the same people who were ching-chonging and didn't understand the differences, this is the same people who would like,
A banded together.
Yes.
Yeah. That's amazing.
and that's the power, that's humanity. Like we're all like, I hate to say we're all in this together. We're all in this together.
Yeah, 100%.
We gotta help each other. We gotta support each other.
And that's kind of how the mom and pop shops were able to hold on and fend off Dunkin' because everyone loved them, right? You'd rather support your local, small business than some big chain.
Yeah.
So
That's insane.
So what can people expect from this documentary? Like, once they do see it, like what can people expect from this doc?
I think you can expect to be surprised. I'm not going to give away all the good stuff.
Great answer.
I think I always wanted that. I wanted it to be a bit of a Trojan horse because, like, how many people on a Friday night want to sit down and watch a documentary about genocide? It's pretty depressing.
Yeah,
Like, not
yeah.
many people. But then you might like flip through your Netflix queue and you're like, Donut King? What's a Donut King? I like donuts. You like donuts.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Who doesn't love donuts, right? And you watch the Donut King, and you're gonna get a lot more than you bargained for.
Not gonna lie, every donut shop that I've gone to so far, ever since then, I'm like, hey, do you know the Donut King? He does. I'm not even joking. I remember this young kid. He's like, Donut King, and I thought he thought that I was like joking around with him, and I was like, no, it's a documentary that's gonna be coming out. It's called The Donut King. Like, maybe your family will know about the Donut King.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, I'll have to ask but I'll definitely support the film. But I've been just like,
Yeah, you have it.
do you know the Donut King? Do you know the Donut King? Which is exciting. But going along with this, like, so obviously the pandemic has hit, and the last time I've heard about the Donut King, besides with Migs, is that it was going to be playing at film festivals, and then obviously that's at a halt right now. So where are people going to be able to view the film? Because I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it so bad.
We're going to be announcing very soon. It should be, our initial date was going to be in November. Now it might be pulled up to October.
Oh, nice.
And on what platforms is to be determined. It was meant to have full theatrical life. And then it was going to have limited theatrical in LA and New York. And now with how everything is, not sure we're actually going to get a theatrical release, but it could be something called virtual cinema or TV on demand through iTunes, or we're not exactly sure which platform it's going to be yet, but we will announce soon.
What is a theatrical? What does that mean?
Going into movie theaters.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, geez, that's big.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's but because of COVID, you can't really.
It's a little heartbreaking, yeah.
It's unfortunate.
And just like, we're about to wrap it up pretty soon here. I know, Uncle Kwon kind of mentioned earlier that the movie has already won a few awards. Is that something that we could share, talk about?
We did. So we were meant to premiere at South by Southwest. I mean, it was going to be a really big deal.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we were going to have some cool people come to the premiere too, and the party, and
We were going to be there.
Yeah.
and it was going to be a blast. Unfortunately, that did not materialize, but they still continued with the competition where we won special jury prize for excellence in documentary storytelling.
Wow.
And then we continued on to the Sun Valley Film Festival, where we won the 1 in a Million documentary, which is the best documentary made for under $1 million, which is basically all documentaries that we won.
Huge. How many documentaries were like buying in for that award? Like how many were?
How
Oh,
much competition?
yeah, I don't know, 20?
Wow.
So 20 something.
Wow.
And actually today it starts the Bentonville Film Festival that is in Bentonville, Arkansas. It's Gina Davis and an actress, Gina Davis. She founded this film festival. And we are in competition there this week. And there are a couple of other festivals that are not announced yet, but we've got a couple more exciting festivals coming up. Gosh, we're going to be in the Hawaiian Showcase like next week. So yeah, the film's got some legs.
Yeah, it's pretty acclaimed at this point. I could say that.
Yeah. I mean, if I found it, I was like, when is it coming out? And I didn't know. It was
way.
like, yeah, I was super excited about it.
I'm so excited to hear that.
Yeah.
It's not just like my friends who know about it.
Right.
No, it was all over the Asian Hustle
Yeah.
Network,
Yeah.
like on Facebook. Like they have like 40-something thousand people that are on that in that private group, and so someone had posted it up, and everybody was liking it. So
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
And that's how I was like, oh, what is this Donut King?
Yeah.
Like I love donuts.
Yeah.
And
And for me, it's like, not just because they're family, it's really, it was more of the story behind the struggle and the rise and fall and just everything about it. That was for me why I want to promote it so much. Because I want people to feel how I felt reading the book and then actually being part. Like, I feel like I'm part of it just because, I'm super close to them,
Yeah.
But I just wanted people to feel what I felt, when I knew about the story.
Actually, I'm gonna leave you with a very fun fact. We opened the film with a Wu-Tang Clan track.
What track?
We
Which?
opened the film with Cream.
What was it?
We opened the film with Cream.
Nice.
And
As you should.
Y'all.
that took 4 months for me, like 4 months
to get it
of
released.
to get it.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, getting licensing, getting music clearance for films, and TV, it's very, very hard.
He's an R&B singer.
And great, and for Wu-Tang, they're very, very, very expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive. And then even if you have all the money in the world, that doesn't even matter. They have to like you.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So they have creative control. Like they're like, not gonna do it. So I mean, I asked every single person I knew, like, who do I know who knows somebody who I'm like, how do I get to? Like, I first got to Method Man, and they're
You
like,
actually spoke to them?
I
Spoke to
spoke
Rakim?
to-
You spoke to
I
the chef?
I spoke with somebody close to Method Man,
Oh,
and they said, I'm sorry, this sounds so great, but everything goes through the RZA. Right. So then I had to go to RZA.
Of course.
So then I went to RZA, and then I wrote a letter. I had to write another letter. Then a friend floated me a secret phone number. I called this phone number, and it was this girl, and she's like, okay, I'll help you get your letter. She's like, write a letter, email it to me. So I wrote another letter. then there was nothing, and then it was like getting close to the end, like close to South by, and my music supervisors are like, hey, do you want to think about any alts,
Alternative?
you
Yeah,
know,
of
because
course.
like we're cutting it close and I'm starting to get nervous. And I said, no,
All in.
all in, we have to. And she's like, so I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I'm gonna call that random phone number again. And I called the random number and she was like, look, it's, we're drawing a hard line right now. He's saying no to everything. It's like, and you know, the Riz is one thing, but like it actually has to go through Divine, Riz's brother. And he's been drawing a hard line because we cannot set the precedent. I know you have no money. You're like a documentary. We cannot set this precedent because we have other negotiations going on.
Wow.
And she's like, and just for context, like lifelong friends, he said no.
So how did you get the release?
So I wrote another letter, and then at 11 p.m. I wrote another letter, and she's like, but you know, you never know. You know, you can come in tomorrow and be in a really good mood. And I was like, all right, well, maybe he meditated. And she's like, well, you know, and yours is the only documentary. So I wrote another like super personal letter. It was clear the next day.
Wow.
Wow.
And they basically, well, we also have an impact partner for the film. We've partnered with Refugees International. So a portion of proceeds and profits from the film will go to Refugees International.
Wow.
Because obviously we've been able to see firsthand how much refugees, if given a chance, can contribute to a community and contribute to a new country. So we have an impact partner, and they wrote, they're like, hey, you know what, the story resonates with us. The fact that you partnered with Refugees International, it really resonates with us. So it is our honor to clear this track for you.
Wow.
I love that.
Just
I love
even
that
your
ending.
grit is pretty awesome.
What's that?
Just even your grit is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
we,
that's-
we know the hustle, but
Yeah.
I mean, persistence
Persistence is
obviously
something
paid
else.
off, and wow, that's awesome. Before we end the show, we always like to ask our guests, anybody that wants to become, you know, like a DP or producer, what is your best advice for them?
Best advice is to be active and do it and shoot. It doesn't matter how much money or how no money you have. We all have tools at our disposal now, whether even if it's an iPhone, because you have to know your craft. You have to get better at your craft. You just have to, you have to practice. And it's easier now than ever. I mean, back in the day, and everything had to be shot on film. Everything cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And now there's all kinds of new technologies that allow the barriers to entry to be so much lower. But barriers to entry being lower does not mean that anybody can just be a storyteller. You have to have your voice, and the only way you find your voice is by doing it.
You guys heard it here on the Kickspot.
You heard that first.
You guys
heard that
heard
first
it here. I know you guys are going to be the next Alice. So we're excited to see your films as well,
Yes.
too.
And Alice, if you want to just give our audience and our listeners where they can find you or any social media platform that you want to promote, by all
You
means.
can find me at on Instagram at Goobird, G-U-B-I-R-D. You can find the film at the Donut King Film. Check it out.
Yes,
Yes,
everyone,
please check it out. Yes,
support
100%.
support the Asian family.
Yes.
Support the Asians.
Yeah,
Yep.
support the Asian.
Yep. Asian Hustle Network right here.
Asian Hustle Network.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, you guys. And thank you, Alice. Thank you. It's been an honor.
Thank you so much.
A great piece of conversation with you. You've definitely inspired a lot of people, especially us. And especially with the storytelling that you did today. We are honored to have you. And
Honored to be here. Thank you so much.
And my family would like to thank you because without you, we wouldn't be here.
I have to think. Without your story, I wouldn't be here. So that's a
100%.
big like.
Goes both ways,
Welcome
yeah.
to like all y'all.
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, you guys. Stay tuned for this episode. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you.
Like,
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
You are listening to Kickspot.